Okay, so we have another UFC video related to UFC 294, but this is involving the loser of the main event, Alexander Volkanovski. So, as many of you know, he got head kick KO'd in the first round after, a short notice fight, so it was kind of expected that he was most likely not going to win, but a lot of people weren't expecting him to lose in the first round and get KO'd, where the last time he got KO'd was almost 10 years ago and at welterweight, to put in perspective. And also just the shocking realization of with how their first fight went against Islam, where it was a razor-close decision where many people thought Volkanovski won, and that if it went into a sixth round or like a sudden death round, that Volkanovski would probably have finished Islam. So to see him get head kick KO'd and put to sleep was pretty shocking to everyone. But he was saying even before this fight that he wanted to stay consistent and that he would most likely still be fighting on the January pay-per-view against Ilia Topuria, which would have been the Canada pay-per-view. And this was kind of being rumored before he stepped up to fight Islam. But no, do not fight Ilia right now. I think if he wasn't KO'd and it was just this Islam fight never happened, he most likely would have been Ilia. Ilia's a good fighter, but I think he's a bit too young for this. Inexperienced is better to say. And I don't know, he can still win this fight, but just that head damage that he just took, he just got KO'd, badly, not good at all in the slightest. He's also 35. I don't know when he turns 36, but it's very well known that champions don't really keep their titles in the the lower weight classes beyond a certain age. I think Volkanovski is one of the oldest defending champions in those lower weight classes of his entire inception. I don't really know who else I'd say, Demetrius Johnson, but both him and Volkanovski are both just unreal talent, skill, just all that stuff. But gotta put it like that. The age factor, he's a lot older. Ilia Topuria is 26, 27. I don't remember which it is. It's one of those two. Volkanovski's 35. He's a lot older now. He just got KO'd. And I get it. And I'll briefly talk about his post-fight interview he was giving, where a lot of people are kind of giving their thoughts about it because it was kind of shocking. He was talking about just what happens when he isn't in training camp or he's fighting, that it's just not good. I don't really know how to word it, but said he would do his own head in for things with that, and that's very shocking and worrying for it, where fighting might be the only thing this guy has, and that worries me because that means he might stay around longer than he should. Let's look at Tony Ferguson. He's been in the sport for so long. Back when Brock Lesnar was still fighting at a competitive level, he's been there a long time, and he's on is it a 5 or 6 fight losing streak? I want to say it's 6. It's not good, and a lot of people aren't going to remember Tony Ferguson as this just absolutely dangerous, this boogeyman of the division. I remember him as this washed-up old man who might lose to Paddy Pimblett, and I think Paddy Pimblett is going to beat him. And that's not a sentence I'd ever want to say, but I think that might happen. But just got to look at that of the head trauma that Tony Ferguson has taken. That ain't going to end well for him in the future. And it'll probably be the same for Volkanovski. And that's what worries me. And Ilia hits hard. He cracks. He's got power. He's got submission game. Volkanovski needs an actual full training camp. He can't just start going back into training after getting head kick KO'd by Islam Makhachev, who is a giant man. That man looked enormous that fight. It's not going to end well. I think he needs to take a break. And I know the argument they're going to say is, well, if he doesn't fight, then it's going to be Ilia Topuria versus Max Holloway for the interim title. And if Max wins that, then he has to fight Max a 4th time. In my honest opinion, I still think he should just fight Max Holloway a 4th time if Max wins that instead of jumping in to fight Ilia. And no, it's not because I'm Max is going to win this time or that. No, I think Volkanovski would do similar things to Max Holloway that he did in their 3rd fight. I'm not going to be a Max Holloway, coping of that, give him another fight for all that stuff. But I get it. It's man, we got to get this division moving, and there's, controversy with you having, interim title fights. In my opinion, when it happens, it then it gives that card a headliner now, because I don't know who would headline The January card could be anyone, but if that one headlines it, then you have a title fight there. And then when Volkanovski returns, it's marketed even higher because you have the regular champion and then you have the interim champion. It's a unification battle. That normally makes a card do better. So I think marketing-wise, that would make Volkanovski more money. It would, if Ilia wins, the hype on that fight would be amazing because no one other than Alexander Volkanovski has beaten Max Holloway at featherweight since, I think, Dennis Bermudez was the last person, and that was so long ago. I forget when that was, but that was around the time when Conor was still coming up the division at featherweight. But you build that fight will be crazy. If Ilia beats Max Holloway, then he is the rightful number one contender. And there can be, depending on how he does, there can be an argument that, hey, he could win this fight because right now he really only has like 2 major wins that people can use as arguments in fights. One is Josh Emmett, which it's Josh Emmett, but he went 5 rounds with Josh Emmett, brutalized him, and rearranged his face, stuff like that. And I get that. Calvin Kattar also did that, and you saw what Max did to Calvin Kattar. I get it. I get where people are coming from, but he's gone 5 rounds, and he's super young. He isn't 35 Calvin Kattar. He isn't 38 or 39 Josh Emmett, and he's also submitted Bryce Mitchell, the submission expert. He submitted him. So he's got those 2 wins on that. But if he also adds Max Holloway to that, the fight becomes more competitive. And then you can market it as oh, this is actually a competitive fight. This is the new generation Alexander Volkanovski is fighting against. But you're going to throw it away if you have Alexander Volkanovski fight in January. Because that is including this month, or not including this month, that is 3 months he has to not only recover, but go into a training camp. And Ilia Topuria, he's in the gym training because he wants that title. He wants to bring the title back to Spain. He wants to bring it to Georgia. He wants to bring it probably to Germany as well. Man, I don't know what to call the man. He's from he's a lot of things, a lot of places. But he's hungry. He's 26, 27. The man is hungry for a title. He's hungry for money. That's just a whole different level of that. And so he's training. He saw this fight and he's like, okay, well, I need to train because if I get the opportunity, I might either be fighting Max Holloway or I might be fighting Volkanovski. And if I'm fighting Volkanovski right now, the man just got KO'd. So he's probably going really hard in the gym right now because he's like, I have a chance. I could win this. So in my opinion, I really just think Volkanovski needs to take some time off. And I get it. He probably doesn't want to follow the same thing that a lot of these city kickboxer guys are doing. Kai France has taken time off because I believe he got a concussion or something. Not saying that Kai France should be fighting or anything with that head trauma. And then Israel Adesanya mentally just broke after the Sean Strickland thing. He said he's taking an absence from sport. He might return at UFC 300, which is like 6 pay-per-views away, which I get it, but he's surrounded by 2 of his main guys at his gym that are taking time off right now, and he might be like, well, maybe I should, or maybe he's like, no, I can't do that. I have to fight, and I'm worried that he's not going to listen to anyone, and he's going to go into the cage. He might get finished, or he might just lose. He might lose a decision, just that, but chin won't take the same damage if he does that. Do I think he can win? Yeah, I think he could win. I think Volkanovski is probably one of the greatest fighters, not only of our generation, but of just all time in general. If you've seen the things he's been doing to fighters in that division, it's crazy. But I think he could win the fight. I've seen that. We saw Alex Pereira coming off of a brutal knockout to Israel Adesanya in their rematch in MMA. A couple months later was fighting Jan Blachowicz up a weight class in Salt Lake City, which is at elevation. And he ended up winning that fight. It was a close fight, yeah, and some people are arguing that. But the point is, it's not impossible. I think Volkanovski has the skill set and just drive to win a decision, maybe get a finish, depending on that. Just, we don't know how good Ilia is at certain things. But I just think everything would be against him, just like it was in the second Islam fight. So that's kind of my thoughts on that, and I was seeing that, and it was worrying me because I don't want to see Volkanovski go down this huge losing streak. It just wouldn't be good, and that would not be good to see for him. And I don't think anyone wants to see it. I'm not seeing anybody really say, oh, he should fight the January card. No one is, but similar to what people have said, like, for Tony, of, like, Tony Ferguson should retire, I don't think he's going to listen.